Heroes aren't forged by the battles they survive. They're forged by the moments that reveal what they truly believe. And every myth, every story that matters, begins with one question. Today I'm going to hand you that question. Once you know it, your games will never be the same again. Because every unforgettable legend obeys a law older than language itself. Show, don't tell. But that's only half the truth at the TTRPG table. It's not enough to just say it. In movies, it's easy. The glance, the clenched fist, the silent, shattering decision. The camera catches it all. At the gaming table, you don't have the camera or the special effects and the sound design. We have words. And if we don't use those words the right way, if we don't ask the right questions, our stories lose momentum before they even start. Many GMs think show, don't tell is enough. Many GMs implement it well in their own descriptions, but struggle to get players to also naturally express their characters. It leads to uncomfortable conversations about metagaming and being in character, but that can feel pretty annoying to everybody at the table. It shouldn't be something you have to force. Being a great GM is, in fact, a soft power. Because in an RPG, unless you trigger actual action under pressure, players never show you who they really are. They just talk about their characters. Because you haven't created a catalyst for them to become them. And when the players talk about, instead of through their heroes, something essential dies. I know. I've seen it. Hell, I've caused it. I've killed it. Back when I thought good prep was enough. Without the right trigger, at the right moment, even great GMs fall into this trap. Players narrate emotions instead of revealing them. Scenes get hollow. Worlds that should feel electric start feeling like cardboard sets. And most GMs blame the wrong things. They blame the maps or the modules or the dice, the players. But it's not the props and it's not the dice. It's the missing spark, the missing question. And once you see it, you can't unsee it because there is one question that if you ask, it rips off the mask. It pulls players out of their comfort zone, out of description into choice, into legend. And I believe in this so much, it's a core component of the TTRPG system that I built. It's called Enginotica. But before we talk about that, I want to give you something you can use right now. In your next session. I call it Mythic framing. It's not complicated. It's not fancy. It's powerful because it's sharp. And it sticks. Every time. Instead of asking, what do? You ask, what do you do that shows us who you are? That's it. One small change. One giant door kicked open. It turns basic decisions into defining acts. It turns simple actions into story. It turns a Thursday night into a legend players will tell for years. Because when you ask, what do you do that shows us who you are? You move from mechanics to myth. You stop skating the surface and you dive under. You touch the part of the character that can bleed, that can betray, that can astonish. And once your players taste that, once they taste what it's like to live the story instead of describing it, there's no going back. Let me show you exactly how it works. Not theory, just real examples. Imagine this. Your comrade lies bleeding at your feet, sword still clenched in their hand. Their story's almost over, and you hear it. The roar of the horde, the black tide coming to erase both of you like you never even mattered. And here's the raw truth. You can't save them by running, and you can't save them by mourning. The only way you can save them is by standing and fighting. Now, under the old way of framing things, the GM leans in and asks the player, "What do you do?" And the player shrugs and says, "I keep fighting? Fine. Good." You'll get a few rolls, you'll swing your sword, and you'll die together. And the monsters will march on, never remembering your names. But if you use mythic framing, if you let the silence stretch a bit, if you build the weight in the moment, and then you ask, "What do you do that shows us who you are?" Now everything changes. Now the player considers the moment at a deeper level. Perhaps now they lean forward and say, "I plant my boots over my fallen brother. I raise both axes to the blackened sky. And I roar, a roar so raw it rips the swarm in half. I swear no retreat, no surrender, and I swing for every broken promise this world ever made." And right there, the battlefield isn't just blood and steel anymore. It's defiance, hammered into flesh. It's loyalty, carved into legend. And even if you fall, even if the horde crushes you, and it probably will, your legend is etched into this table and into this world forever. That's what the right question unlocks. That's what it forges. Let me give you another example. Picture this. The villain stands at the center of the square, wreathed in stormfire, grinning like he's already won. Flames dance from his fingertips, wild, merciless, reaching out for the villagers you swore to protect. They're trapped. They're terrified. They trusted you. And this monster, he's about to turn that trust into ash. The old way would say, what would you do? And sure, you might say, I cast shield, I counterspell, I dive in front of them. It's fine. It's safe. But it's narratively shallow. We didn't feel anything. But if we use mythic framing and ask, what do you do that shows us who you are? Now the table holds its breath. Now the player says, perhaps. I step between the flames and the people. I raise my shield and I grit my teeth as the stormfire carves runes of agony across my skin. I stand because they can't, because someone has to. And in that moment, we're not on a map anymore. We're not tracking hit points anymore. We are in the myth. It's not about who survives. It's about what matters, because real myth isn't clean. It isn't easy. It's messy and it's brutal. It demands something real from the players, something alive. And when they give it to you, even a little, the plot starts happening. That's the moment Enginotica was built for. Because when you ask players to show you who they are, you're not just asking for a choice, you're asking for a legacy. And legacies are what myths are made of. Now, don't think I figured this out on the first try. It was a lot of trial and error. I tried other ways to get heroes deeper into their feelings, and you know what happens? It's so easy for it to come across like you're asking for some kind of group therapy session. Nobody wants that. Even the most brutal, action-packed movies, the manliest stuff out there, like, I don't know, let's Terminator 2. they still have real emotional beats. We need those beats. They make the stakes feel high. They make it real. They make it matter. But that doesn't mean I want to sit there listening to a player give a TED Talk about their character's insecurities. That's not story. That's just noise. It's boring. It kills momentum. I tried back then. I'd wait for key moments and ask players, how did that make you feel? Because I thought it would open them up, help push the story forward through character growth. But almost every time, it had the opposite effect. The players would freeze. They wouldn't know what I wanted because I hadn't given them the right challenge. I hadn't asked them the right question. So they'd tell me about feelings that existed only inside their hero's mind. Feelings that didn't touch the world in any way. Feelings that nobody else at the table could see or feel or respond to. And that's the problem. You can't build myth out of invisible emotions. You need deeds. You need something the world can react to. Learn from my mistakes. Make it natural. Make it organic. Make it succinct. We don't need a speech. We need action. Something that burns hot enough for the whole table to feel. Here's another example. The secret meeting was supposed to be safe. High walls, silent night, a plan simple enough to trust. Your friend, the one who believed in you, would pass the message to the rebels, and the tyrant's grip, it would shatter. But they found you first, the tyrant's men. Whispers in the dark, whispers of safety, of freedom, of gold enough to drown kingdoms. And all you have to do is make sure your companion never leaves this garden alive. No one will know, only you and the night. Now, under the old way, the GM would ask, what do you do? And you'd hear it. I fight the guards. I run. I kill my friend. Safe, predictable, forgettable. But if you ask, what do you do that shows us who you are? Now, perhaps, the player says, I wait. I wait until my companion leans close, ready to whisper the last desperate words. And then swift, silent, I drive my dagger into their ribs. I catch them before they can even cry out. I lower them to the ground, blood soaking into the roots. I close their eyes with trembling fingers and whisper, I'm sorry you believed in me, brother. Then I stand and turn my back on the body and walk to the guards, trading the future of 1,000 souls for the few I still love. That's not tactics. That's not stats. That's myth. Another example. Days of hunger claw at your belly. Hope worn thin as your boots. Your company stumbles into a forgotten hall, bones twisted around rotting tables, a rusted throne slumped at the far end, and there, half fallen, half forgotten, the remnants of a crown. No gold, no power, only dust and memory. The old framing, what do you do? And you'd hear, I search for supplies, or I move on. Practical, safe, underwhelming. But when you ask, what do you do that shows us who you are? Now even the skeletons lean in. Now the player says, perhaps, I swagger up to the crumbling throne. I sweep the cobwebs away with a grand and ridiculous bow. I jam the broken crown onto my filthy hair, and I declare myself king of the broken. I raise a shattered goblet high, toasting the skeletons, the fools who thought their feasts would last forever. And I laugh, a rough, ragged, defiant laugh, because even now, even in ruins, I refuse to wear misery like a chain. That's the difference. That's the spark. Do you feel it? When you ask, what do you do? Players check a box, decision, roll, done. But when you say, show us who you are, you call something deeper. You drag the truth out from under the dice rolls and the stat sheets. You did it without lectures, no awkward talks about role-playing more, no backstory monologues nobody really wants, just action, just revelation. And when your players start answering with deeds instead of descriptions, you don't need to push the story like a boulder up a hill. It'll just roll. It becomes something you don't even want to control that much. The plot becomes alive. So far, we've seen how a single question can lift a moment. But this isn't actually about making just a scene better or prettier. It's not just about polishing characters until they shine. It's about igniting the plot itself. It's about giving players something real to cash into. Something they can't just talk around. Something they have to answer with blood, with breath, with truth. We've all felt what happens when we miss it. A player says, "My character's terrified. They don't think they can survive the next fight." It's brave, it's honest, and it lands. DOA. Not because the feeling wasn't real, but because the world couldn't feel it. Because in a living story, words only matter when they're acted. When a hero drops to their knees, screaming a prayer into a burning sky, the world shudders. When a hero laughs in the face of death, that laughter scars the land forever. But when a hero just narrates fear from the outside, it doesn't live, it doesn't burn. Inside the myth, only actions leave marks. Only deeds are remembered. Words can be action, but only when the character dares speak them into the world. Without action, the story's soul withers. The character becomes smoke without flame. It's the difference between hearing someone describe a fire and standing close enough to feel it burn. Now picture the shift. You lean forward and you ask, "What do you do that shows us who you are?" And the player says, "My hero trains alone under the dying sun, each swing slower and heavier until they collapse into the dirt, staring at the sky that has no answers left." Now fear breathes across the table. Now it lives. Maybe another hero steps forward, offering a silent hand. Maybe someone turns away, unable to carry the weight. Maybe someone drops a token at their side. No words needed. They're not reacting to a speech. They're reacting to a choice, a deed. Now the characters aren't just present, they're changing each other. And when that happens, that's when the myth wakes up. When you stop chasing explanations and start triggering revelations. Here's the deeper truth. Story isn't complicated. It's old magic. And the definition might surprise you. Here it is. A character experiences something, and it changes them. That's it. That's a story. That's the whole thing. No change, no story. It doesn't matter how many dragons you slay, how many crowns you seize. If the character walks through the fire and stays the same, the story never lived. Change is the heartbeat. Without it, there's no story. Just noise, fading into silence. But listen, you're not forcing it. You're not a hammer. As a GM, be more like the tides. You move the world by pulling at it, not pushing it. You wait, you listen, and when the right moment comes, you ask the question that pulls it all together. What do you do that shows us who you are? Because at the core of every myth, every saga, every legend, strip it all down and you find one thing. Maps aren't stories. Lore isn't stories. Kingdoms aren't stories. Stories are heroes facing something they can't ignore and being changed forever. No change, no story. So stop chasing plot points. Stop chasing clever twists. The best plots don't come from outlines anyway. They come from smaller things, messier things. They come from the choices players carve into the world. From the heroes they dare to become. From the flaws they can't outrun. from the loyalties they can't betray or the betrayals they can't resist. And here's the secret most tables miss. When players realize their choices are the plot, they start playing differently. They stop asking, how do I survive? And start asking, what will I be remembered for? They stop just playing to win, and they start playing to reveal. And when that happens, then your maps and your kingdoms and your lore, then they stop being scenery. They become living memory. They become wounds and songs and scars that will never heal. Because inspired heroes forge better stories than any prep ever could. So stop just chasing plots. Chase the fire in your heroes. That's where the legends are. Because if you want to be a great GM, you have to learn this fundamental truth about TTRPG narrative. You don't command the story. You unleash it. Thanks for coming this far with me. And if this sparked some inspiration in you, you're going to love what we're building. Enginotica is a new RPG forged from these very truths. Every action matters. Every scar echoes. Every choice shapes the world forever. It's available now in a fully playable 300-page beta on DriveThruRPG with the link below. If you want to adventure with me as a GM, come check out our Patreon. I run games to help new players and GMs discover this new system. And if you want to be part of shaping that world before our alpha release, join our Discord. If this hits you, like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments, what's the greatest moment of character revelation you've ever seen at the table? And remember, heroes aren't made by the battles they survive. Heroes are made by the choices that reveal who they truly are. See you in the spiral, my friends.